friends, welcome on in. Today I am downstairs in my house because I am at my crafting table. This ain't Minecraft. I'm at my sewing table, my little art corner that I have got going on downstairs because I have come up with a new project. I say new, but it's something that I've actually wanted to work on for a while now. I just kind of never had the time or the money or anything to start it. Also, motivation. Motivation is always necessary when starting a new art project. And I think this is going to be a big one. So I hope you guys are strapped in and ready to go. For any Zelda fans out there that might be excited about this project, I hope you are. I am. I am basing this little art project off Majora's Mask. Within Majora's Mask, there are so many different masks to collect. A lot of them are wearable and some of them are non-wearable. Some of them are also the remains that you get from defeating the bosses in the different temples and dungeons and areas. And basically, I've had the idea that I've wanted to make them all. Gotta make them all. And basically, I had this idea because when I made my Huntress mask for my Huntress Dead by Daylight cosplay, I realized how much I enjoyed making the mask because I am quite good at capturing fine details, but I don't have a lot of patience, and I feel like individual masks are a good project base to do a lot of fine details over a short period of time and then move on to the next one. So yeah, I wanted to do the Majora's Mask project. I don't know what I will call it. Maybe I'll come up with a different name for the project, but for now it's the Majora's Mask project. And I want to make all 31 wearable and non-wearable masks in Majora's Mask. In this video, I am starting probably with the Keaton Mask. I feel like that is a very basic mask to start off with. It's one that a lot of Zelda players might know also from Ocarina of Time. You have to go to the mask shop to get it for the guard on your way up to Death Mountain for the first time in Ocarina of Time. Or if you played Majora's Mask, it's also one of the first masks that you sort of see within the game. So I do want to start with this one. I have no plans of what I'm going to do for a lot of them. So the only thing that I know is some masks are more like hats and more like headbands. So I will have to get different bases for those. But the ones with more humane features or even animal features, which I can sort of build off human features, I bought some masks. So I got these. I got a 10 pack, I believe, from Amazon of these white masks. They're in the packaging still because I have not opened them, but this will be my base. And then much like a lot of my other cosplay projects, I will be using some foam clay and aluminium foil, as well as some hot glue to get it started. And then I'll just paint it with acrylic paint because I feel like that's all I really have. I also picked up some more foam clay because you can never have too much foam clay. Amazon came in clutch. I'm excited to create them as I go, and I'm excited to maybe learn some more techniques as I go, and I hope you guys are excited about this project and enjoy what I do because I don't know. I want to do a lot of cosplay projects, I want to do a lot of art projects, but I don't have a lot of time and money and motivation, so I feel like this is a good way to get the ball rolling, and yeah, I'm excited to share it with you guys. Hopefully you see the end product. Hopefully I get through all 31 masks. Okay, enough rambling. We'll go to the mask making.
Starting off, I just used one of the cardboard bases from Amazon, and the Keaton mask is a little bit more curved towards the bottom sort of cheekbone area, so I knew I had to cut up near the forehead a little bit thinner. I then got a pencil and marked exactly where I thought the ears would be. Then I grabbed the foil and started to mold the ears. I did use a couple layers of foil just to get some sturdiness, make them a little bit more rigid so when the foam clay goes on, there's not really any room for movement. And as I was going, I just kept placing them on top of the mask base to try and eyeball the size. Once I had one completely made, I grabbed more foil and then tried to get the other ear to the exact same size and shape as the first one. I think I ended up making the second better than the first, but then I just fixed the first up a little bit more. Once the ears were completely molded, I grabbed my hot glue gun and I just glued them to the base. I did do a few rounds of hot glue and just kept going around the edges to make sure it was completely sealed on the bottom. I wanted it as flush as possible to the mask base. Once the ears were glued on, I wasn't happy with the cheekbones and how far I had cut before, so I just grabbed the scissors and trimmed them down just a little bit more. I then grabbed the pencil again and started to mark where I wanted the eyes to sit. This was just for future reference for when I put on the clay. This is what the mask looked like so far. It kind of just looks like a human demon thing, but I was trusting the process. It was then time to grab the foam clay, and the first thing that I did was try to model the nose of the Keaton Mask. Apart from the ears, it's probably the most prominent part of the Keaton Mask, so I wanted that shape to be as close to the reference as possible, and also knew that if I started to get the shape of that right, then the rest of it would slowly fall together. I did put foam clay over the eyes because the eyes of the Keaton Mask are slits, so I wanted to cut them out afterwards. And then I covered the entire ears and base with foam clay just to make sure that everything was done. Once everything was covered, I did wet my hands with some water just to smooth down the foam clay a little bit more so it dried smoother. Because it was a hot and windy day when I was working on this, it was drying fairly fast. Within a few hours, this is what it looked like. I was already pretty happy with how it was coming together, so this is me just trying it on, making sure the size is okay, and making sure everything just started to look alright. I only needed 24 hours for the clay this time, and it was dry the next day. As I mentioned before, the eyes were the wrong shape, so I now had to cut it out using the pencil reference that I drew onto the foam clay. I just used a Stanley knife. If you do this, please be careful. Make sure your fingers are not in the way of the blade and do things very slowly and patiently. It took me actually quite a while because I was being very careful not to get my fingers, and it was a little harder to cut through the foam clay, but it was soft enough that it wasn't too bad. Now this is a little bit silly, but the next thing that I did was heat up the blade of the Stanley knife and press it against the slit of the eyes just to smooth the foam clay down a little bit. I do recommend you do this with a soldering iron if you have one. I just couldn't find where mine was. The next thing that I did was wanting to make sure that the mask itself had some holes so I could tie a string and make it wearable. I did want all of my masks to be wearable, so I wanted to make sure that the holes were done. The next thing on the list was painting. I mixed together some yellow, gold, and red paint, just the tiniest bit of red paint, to try and get the right color. I did initially add too much red, but I just evened it a little bit out more with some more yellow. The thing is, when I was painting it, it looked a lot brighter in person, but on video it looked quite dark, so I was concerned on how it would look to you guys. But I basically just sat down and painted the entire thing in the yellow that I wanted. Because it was a nice day, I did the first coat and then I took it outside to dry, which it did really quickly, then did 2 more coats. Gonna tie this onto here. Once that was all tied up, we just had a few more details to add. But first, I did want to test me wearing it properly. I liked how it sit, but at this point when I was looking at the video of me wearing it, I thought it looked a little bit odd, but I was just trusting that it didn't have the other smaller details yet, and that's what made it look weird. So I got to work. I started to paint the black on the ears and the black nose. Now, in a couple of versions of Majora's Mask, it is different. One of them looks like they have a diamond nose and another one looks like it has a triangle nose. So I kind of went for a half diamond, half triangle, more leaning towards a diamond, but basically a diamond with a flat top, just so it kept that animal looking nose. The next thing I did was grab some black mesh that I had left over from my Huntress mask, and I folded it over so it was double layered, and hot glued it to the inside of the mask. I did it along the slits to make sure that none of the hot glue was actually peeking outside the eye, and the double layering was just to make sure that it was a little bit darker when you looked at it from the front. I then grabbed my scissors, reached into the inside, and cut away any of the excess fabric around the eyes. Then I just went in with the hot glue gun and made sure that all little parts around the eye was definitely stuck down. It was a little bit of back and forth, but it worked out. This is what it looks like from the front with just the fabric behind the eyes. The next thing that I wanted to do was kind of clean up the eyes just a little bit, and the only way that I thought of doing that was to grab the black paint and paint a little outline around the eyes. Wasn't so much on the front of the mask, but like on the inside of the eye slits, and to cover up any hot glue that might have been peeking, or any bits of cardboard around the eye, any bits of foam around the eye that was just kind of peeking out and not looking cohesive. This was probably the most tedious part of this mask, as I just did not want to get black paint anywhere else on the mask. Suki also came down to join me and was my supervisor for this whole project, so you can see her walking around a few times within the video. And anyway, I was very happy with the final product. This is what it looks like with the outline and the inside colored in with the black paint. And that's done. Please let me know if you liked the Keaton mask and how it turned out. Feel free to subscribe if you want to follow the project, and let me know in the comments what you would like to see next. Thank you all again, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.